Why is it so hard for us to communicate our needs? Welcome back to the Secure Husband Podcast. Bruce Abbott, certified professional coach and founder of SecureHusband.com, the podcast where I help good men stop living from emotional survival and start leading their lives. Why do we struggle saying what we need? I always wondered why I had such a hard time communicating my needs without trying to control or collapse or avoid conflict. Because I would read it everywhere: express your needs, communicate your needs and wants. And logically I knew that, but why couldn't I do it? It's because that inner boy, he never felt safe doing it. And that's at the core of why it's so hard. So I would struggle to express my needs because I would think things like, she already should know, or I didn't want to start a fight, or if I say something, she's going to reject me again. And sometimes I didn't even know what I needed. And as I went through the healing process, it was helpful to know that it's not weakness, it's not failure, it's not really even a lack of love. It's a wounded inner boy who's trying to get his needs met without knowing how to ask and coming from a place of fear. Because there's nothing wrong with having needs. Your needs are valid. But in my case, my delivery was completely killing the connection. There's a difference between neediness and having needs. And we've talked about this before. Neediness is people-pleasing. It's giving to get. Having needs is how we were divinely created. Need for connection. We all need love and need to give love. So needing something from your partner doesn't automatically make you needy. Needing something but not knowing how to ask for it or being afraid to ask for it, that's what gets us in trouble. That's what creates the chaos. See, we don't struggle because our needs are wrong. It's just the method of asking and from the place that we're asking it from. If we're asking from a place of insecurity or unconscious threat or pressure or desperation, that's when it becomes needy, controlling, clingy, and that's when she pulls away. Not because the need is bad, it's the energy behind it. That's the part that's scary or confusing to her. And we've talked about that in many podcasts, how that happens. So let's start the process. First step, we notice. Notice what's driving the behavior. Because remember, the need is not the problem. It's how we're going about it. When your wife hasn't initiated sex or even affection, you tell yourself, okay, I don't want to rock the boat. Deep down, you're angry, you're sad, you're frustrated, you're grieving. And he'd hint at his need for connection. He would never come out and confidently say it. He would tiptoe around it, and then she would react. She'd freeze up. Then he'd get quiet. The frustration would build. He would try harder. The conversation then went less of tiptoe and more into guilt tripping, blaming, shaming. That didn't go well. Then it either went to exploding with anger or withdraw and shut down. Does that pattern sound familiar? That was not the secure husband confidently stating his needs. That was the inner boy who learned he had to walk on eggshells, tiptoe around people. And it confirms what the inner boy thinks. Needing makes people leave. And if I ask directly, I'll be rejected. And when you notice that that's not your adult self showing up, that's a scared little boy, then you can start to change things. And you can have that conversation from the adult and not from the wounded child. And that's where you can choose to speak from honesty and authenticity and not tap dancing around it and performing. See, that wounded boy doesn't ask clearly. He just drops the little breadcrumbs. So you get passive aggressive and make little digs or sarcastic comments. Or you say nothing, but you sulk and you withdraw. Or you kick it into higher gear and try to earn more. Start becoming a cleaning machine around the house. Maybe if I'll do all this housework, she'll cuddle with me. One of the frustrating ones is when you're trying to gauge the right mood. Now, context is everything, don't get me wrong. You're approaching this like it's some strategy game, finding the right military approach to go in for the sexual conquest, and then when it doesn't go right, you say nothing or then you explode. But when you choose to intentionally do it differently, remember the choosing part of the secure husband process is understanding what hasn't worked in the past and doing it differently this time. It's understanding that those things weren't working. And it's making a choice to name this need and communicate this need with no pressure and no agenda, no guilt. So with your wife, it might look like, babe, I've been feeling a little disconnected from you lately. I'd love some time where we could reconnect. Not just physically, but emotionally. I'm not expecting anything, but I really want to connect with you. and I just want to share this honestly. Now, it sounds simple, but that only works when it's real, when it's authentic. And if you're saying it, still secretly hoping to manipulate a result, she's going to feel it and it will backfire. So you have to believe it, say it with truth, and whatever the outcome is. If she connects with that, wonderful. If she shuts you down again, at least you were communicating with authenticity and truth, and you can build on that. Because think about it, as a little kid, you really were not comfortable speaking your needs because we're kids. And so if you are ignored as a kid or dismissed when you showed emotion, especially if you were told to toughen up, man up, stop crying before I really give you something to cry about, your nervous system just learns one thing. Needing means danger. And so now when you try to ask your wife for connection or affection, your body's panicking because it still has all these false core beliefs. And that's why it is so important to sit with that inner boy and talk to him. Let him know, hey, little guy, you're not too much. Your needs are not wrong. Even though they're not met in this moment, I am not going to abandon you. And you lead him with self-compassion, with strength, not shame. And you connect to that higher power. You connect to God, the universe. And you sit and you dialogue with that inner child and that higher power, that divine guidance. Is this true? Am I too much? Am I wrong for having needs? And that source of unconditional love and inherent worth is going to tell you, no, you are not wrong for having needs. Everyone has needs. Needs are neutral. It's the energy behind it that's everything. We tend to think that the needs kill intimacy. No, it's the insecurity that kills the intimacy. It's tone. Tone of voice is everything. You can have two guys saying the exact same sentence to their wives. I'd love to feel closer to you. One can say it from calm, self-respect, clarity. The other could say it from fear or panic and a need for reassurance. Same words, completely different energy. Same with physical touch. If your wife's been avoidant for a while, you've got two choices. You can have the wounded approach, where you go in and say, I don't know why you never touch me anymore. I guess you're not attracted to me. It sucks always being the one who wants it. And I've been there many times. But the secure approach is when you come up and say, babe, I noticed we haven't been very physically close lately. I miss that with you. I'd love to talk about how we might slowly rebuild that. Now, that's not the same as having the talk we talked about in a previous episode. The talk sounds more like the insecure approach earlier. This is when coming from clarity and calm and just saying, hey, we haven't been close. I want to connect. Now, you guys may still have a lot of baggage going on, and y'all will work through that. But guess which one of those builds trust, and which one's going to send her nervous system into shutdown? Same words, different core energy, and she can feel it before you even open your mouth. So you have to take full ownership without guilt tripping or collapsing. Your needs are valid, but they are still your responsibility. That means you have to name them clearly, you have to communicate them clearly and calmly. And if they're not met, you don't collapse, you don't manipulate, you take care of your emotional self, regardless of the outcome, and you go through the process of what is the next healthy action. If your wife never initiates affection, you're not going to scream and shut down and use her withdrawal as permission to abandon yourself. You're just going to say, babe, I understand this may be hard for you. I want you to know what I value and what I need. If that's something you're not ready to offer right now, I understand that. I just want to be honest with you and myself. That's peace. That's leadership. There's nothing manipulative there. It's truthful. It's honest. And when we start becoming truthful and honest and can regulate our nervous system in those moments, then we get better at expressing the need without fear or without controlling or manipulating. We don't hint at it. We don't tap dance around it. We don't hope she figures it out. We stop tying our identity to her response. And we speak it from truth. We speak it with calm. We speak it clearly. We can speak it because we're no longer afraid of what happens if the need is not met immediately. Now, that doesn't mean you tolerate disconnection forever, but it does mean you lead through it with patience and clarity and self-respect. And I do find that moment that you stop needing her response to feel okay, she starts feeling safer responding. It's very ironic, but you've stopped outsourcing your emotional security to her behavior. And we've talked about that a lot in this podcast. You become stable, you become that mighty oak, you become trustworthy, because it's not about not having needs. Your needs aren't a burden. You're not too much for having needs. We're human. We are wired for connection. You just never learned how to communicate them from wholeness. That's why the process is so important, because you're not that boy anymore. You're a man. You're ready to lead and stay steady. And that's how you can take those needs that you have identified and express them clearly, because you don't have to hint at it, you don't have to shut down, you don't have to go without. You just need to lead from truth. I hope this podcast has been helpful for you. Hey, if so, give me a review. Hit that subscribe button for more Secure Husband episodes. I appreciate that. Share this episode with someone who you think may need to hear this. Visit securehusband.com for more resources and to book one-on-one coaching with me. And I'll see you again on the next Secure Husband podcast. Thanks for listening.